good evening, whichever part of the world you're joining us from. A very warm welcome to all of you to day 11 of the Global Sustainable Development Summit 2021 for unlocking the potential of SMEs for SDGs. Today, we will be focusing exclusively on SDG10, reduce inequality within and among countries, and how SMEs can contribute towards achieving this global goal by 2030. We are opening the summit today with the topic Reduced Inequalities Future Fit Business Benchmark by Dr. Salil K. Sen. Dr. Salil K. Sen is a Sustainability Living Labs across WWE variant UNIV Habitats professor. His career trajectory is a blend. He is consulting in energy with Asian Development Bank, UNIP, and UNESCAP. Certificate in Sustainability Practice Global Classroom from the Earth Institute at Columbia University, New York. Resource person roles on disaster resilience at Kyoto University. Visiting fellow at Tsinghua University and University of International Business and Economics, Beijing. Visiting faculty roles at the University of Redlands, Southern California, Institut Mines Telecom, Evry, France, and SUMAS, Geneva, Switzerland. He is based in Singapore, and he says that all these experiences has imparted a sense of multi-habitat living lab for him. Dr. Salil aspires to view the energy transition through water waste energy seamlessness. This is manifested as sustainability action pathways of urbanization, infra SDG Raksha, and Inno Engage. These configured Dr. Salil's value proposition as WWE own, we own, wherein WWE is water, waste, energy linked infrastructure. Interestingly, it's also we own the proactive entrepreneurial alignment among policymakers, responsible financiers, services processors, and grassroots of community. What we own, we take care, essentially drives Dr. Salil's lifelong learning as an enabler and facilitator, instilling participants and the students to being a part of the solution. Let me proudly invite Dr. Salil K. Sen for his session, Reduce Inequalities, Future Fit Business Benchmark. Over to you, Dr. Salil.
Thank you. This is great audio. Well, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's quite getting a bit late in the evening here in Singapore, but the topics of interest really I'm looking forward to. It is quite an interesting sudden interaction with this wonderful group. Looking at the sheer participation is very impressive. Now, SDG 10, straight away going to the topic, what I'm trying to do is try to link my research domain, which is WWE underscore own equals we own, into the discussion or the conversation on inequity reduction with a focus on MSME. In order to do that, let's quickly recap the compartments of SDG 10. Essentially, there are 7 parts of the SDG 10, which I'll very quickly recap. And then there are 3 drivers, which makes it 7 plus 3, which is 10. So here, we can see in the center, the blend between inequity reduction with the water waste energy own equals to we own. And how do I blend it? I have tried to justify this in this slide. So there are issues where we are and where we would like to be. So where we are is, there is some discrimination, there is, which means that the wealth disparity is growing day by day. Within a country, within a region, developed countries, underdeveloped countries, overdeveloped countries. So this discrimination needs to be evening out, is one of the targets of this SDG 10. Which logically brings to the next point is the low income is more or less associated with the small micro startups in underdeveloped countries, in the non-traditional and traditional sectors. So that is the target, that the bottom 40% of the population should get an income hike. So that will contribute to the inequity reduction. Then, because of their income sparseness, it is observed that these are the people who move around the world mostly, and they send back their hard earned revenues, salaries, honorariums back to their folks in the country. But lo and behold, we can see the remittance fees are quite prohibitive. So there's a target here, specifically the SDG10. This part, this topic says that less than 3% of the transaction cost, and eliminate the remittance corridors with costs higher than 5%. So if I earn 100, 97 should reach my folks. This is one of the very important targets, very focused on MSMEs. The other point is a differential treatment. This draws from the WTO discussions, which is now bringing together the policymakers to have fiscal policies, the wage and social protection, and the well being of people, particularly the MSME community. So, this also says that there has to be some differential. There cannot be one size fits all here. There are poorer countries, there are very poorer countries, so they should get a differential treatment. Moving on, how this inequity will be taken care of through value added investments, through the form of official development assistance, financial flows, including foreign direct investment, from those parts to those parts which require the most, which really will have some good benefit on the inequity reduction. But what is the role of the MSMEs themselves? They also have to do something in order to attract these value added investments. What they have to do is their productivity should go up. And in order to promote this, in order to enhance their efficiency and productivity, there has to be a policy syndrome which will eliminate the discriminatory laws. It will cut off the middleman, for instance. It will cut off the corruption, for instance. It will systematize and follow the rule of law, for instance. Very interesting topic, really. The next stage would be migration. This also brings very close to my topic area. The moderator who introduced me mentioned about one of the topics, which is urbanization. Urbanization means that a robust rural along with a smart urban. So normally it is seen that there is a huge clutter growing up in the urban megapolises at the cost of the robust rural. So this migration is not responsible migration. It has to be responsible migration when there is a proper voice and proper say of those areas which are developing and aspiring to reach better quality standards without being nomenclatured as a smart city. So a rural can also have these facilities, and it will also retain their population there, which will check and make the migration responsible migration. Moving on, we have to regenerate underserved geographic areas. What are the underserved geographic areas? The small islands, the desert areas, the landlocked countries, the archipelagos, all these coastal areas, and so on. These need to be given a special focus because the MSMEs there are fighting not only to improve their productivity but also fighting climate change. This is another very interesting opportunity, and today's discussion would I would like to open this up when the discussion takes place and when other delegates are speaking. And finally, regulation of fiscal with ESG. This is by far the most current and the most challenging because we have heard the environment social governance to be very much in the news now, particularly with Shell, with ExxonMobil, with New South Wales, that coal mine. These are big names. But what about the MSMEs? They also have to, in their own scale, have to have their own regulations. So this means the social, economic, and political inclusion for all, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or economic. That will create a proper playing field. Having quickly run through these SDG 10 parameters, now I'll try to endeavor to converge the MSME with the sustainability discussion. And for me, inequity roots from three: water, waste, and energy in equilibrium. Let's see. In this case, this is an icon which is the waste icon. It creates an impact. It's the waste icon is a necessary byproduct of all the processes we have in the world. It is also exacerbating now, given the extreme weather conditions and disaster vulnerability. The infrastructure suddenly becomes debris. Debris is nothing but waste in some form. The marine habitat is having a lot of plastic waste and contamination. The coastal areas affecting the MSMEs who are related to hospitality and tourism. The rice and all the cultivation fields, which are becoming inundated with saline water, is also it's nothing but an issue of waste. So the productivity can go up with some reforms, laws, and policies. This is really the link of the MSME inequity with what is to be done, where we would like to be. This will also help to bring down the discrimination because the spirit of we own comes in here. What is the spirit of we own? We own is proactive entrepreneurial alignment. The MSMEs are nothing but entrepreneurial units who would like to refocus, recalibrate, and retrofit with some latent interrelationships amongst water, waste, and energy. What is the attitude of MSMEs towards waste? The relationship here is shown in the impacts SDG number 10 on regenerate underserved geographic areas. It is seen that the underserved geographic areas have a tremendous problem of debris. There is a tremendous nonchalance towards debris, which creates opportunities for the future, where we would like to be. How? Number one, through utilization. Number two, through repurposing. And number three, by retrofitting. So the MSMEs need a real rehaul of their attitude to waste. So waste becomes waste wealth. And waste wealth, why? Because our quest is sustainability. Our quest is sustainable development goals by 2030. Our quest to reach there is to achieve sustainability goal number 10 in all its forms and improve upon that. We need some transforms. How? We should really, really focus on productivity. So productivity defined by output by input, either reduce the input or enhance the output. This has to be the focus. The ball should be in the MSME court, how they should do that. In the next slides, I will discuss a bit more on this. Now, a significant shift has to be there in terms of circularity. Circular economy. The MSMEs can position themselves in proper nodes so that they can serve the bigger counterparts through circularity. This is done through the alignment with the corporate service providers. The big corporate names, private sector or public sector, they need the MSMEs more when they achieve this focus on productivity, when they adapt this significant shift on circularity. And when they have, if they do that, they will get some incentives from the government, from the policymakers. In there, everybody now is into sustainability. We can see the worldwide there is some change. Look at Germany, look at Canada, look at Japan, look at US, look at India. Everybody is trying to focus and refocus on sustainability, and MSMEs has to be a part of their movement. This is a very oft visited picture. You are all familiar. You may wonder what this has got to do with the MSME new business models. See all the changes in this figure. The carbon dioxide is increasing. The oceans are becoming acidic. The aquatic biomass is affected. The decomposition, respiration, decarbonization, all are very, very important. Vectors need to be incorporated. Biomass needs to grow. The fossil fuel burning needs to come down. And all this are opening up opportunities for the MSMEs through new business models. The attitudes to waste get defined by the climate factors, namely ozone, global warming, and conflicts also. So the world's conflict zones are also directly responsible, and they also have to focus on water, food, health and lifestyle, infrastructure, and carbon-proof energy. Well, what is value-added investments? Now, inequity reduction means there has to be value creation somewhere. You can't depend on subsidies. Subsidies don't generate wealth, but a value-based approach will generate wealth. And that value-based approach comes from the value-added investments. If you see at the x-axis, we have some assets, and y-axis, we have the value. And see the hierarchy. The MSME should focus environmental performance, their social contribution or societal contribution, the human capital development, their good governance, and finally stakeholder engagement. All this will enhance the MSME image and that will contribute to the sustainable development actions, and the asset value will increase. So, in order to do that, we have to have an overarching regulation of fiscal with ESG, fiscal with environment, social governance, tailored to the MSME. MSME cannot say that, okay, we are small, how can we pay this tax? How can we be governed by the ESG? Not really so, because they can create wealth at a faster rate because they are nimble. So, this is seen from this interactive governance with respect to environment, economy, and society. The mutually reinforcing the legal compliance and the rule of law is very important. Rule of law doesn't mean that you and me will be monitored by somebody else. We own is the point here. So finally, I come to a three-pronged engagement at a policy level, at a cross-cultural level, and most interestingly, happening now is the web-enabled, AI-enabled, IoT-enabled level. So all these three will be together creating the roadmap for where we would like to be. Look at the pie, look at the benefits. $137 billion of investments on environmental goods and services. There's a market waiting there, developing very fast. The world market potential on infrastructure, US dollar $2.2 trillion. This is, the figures are a bit old. It has increased by now. So this is what I think I will stop here and handle some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salil. That is an excellent session to open this day of the summit where we are focusing on SDG 10. And as you said, MSMEs have a huge role to play. So there are a few questions. Is tackling inequality the overlooked key to sustainable development? One of the questions.
It's
Okay.
it's like the chicken and egg problem. Which comes first, really? Inequality tackling would create a sustainable problem, or we don't tackle the sustainability, that creates the inequality. Because we can't any longer, we can't blame it on, there's so much inequality, we can't grow. So we have to take that ourselves. The onus lies on our own pathways. There is a protectionism all around, which is not good. So that gives us opportunity for the locals to grow, the locals to fit in, to locals to bring out their entrepreneurial spirit. I would respond only to this extent, to this very challenging question.
Thank you so much. And we have one more question. Despite the critical importance of SDG 10 and its central role in driving progress against many of the goals, research has shown that it is one of the sustainable development areas that businesses engage with the least. What has to be done so that corporations engage with SDG 10?
Just drop the word M, medium and small scale or micro scale. Don't distinguish. I think the time has gone to having a silo that, look, we are big guys and you are the small, meager, micro, medium, small scale. If we take that approach, which other ways it means that empowerment, empowerment at the grassroots level, so that the smallest micro MSME would feel that in our domain, in our habitat, we can do the best. I think this approach, yes, you are right. It is not paid much attention. It's both people are to blame, which the entrepreneurs who are the MSMEs themselves, as well as the lack of policy, the lack of confidence in them for any clearance their independence and their self-governance, the local government's role, the society helping out, and even buying the services produced by the MSMEs. These are the ones, only then they will be. If we are always going to the, for the big brands, etc., then how will the MSMEs grow?
Exactly. So we have 3 more minutes to go. So I'll take one more question. Singapore being the smart and sustainable city, how do these cities drive SDG 10?
To the audience here, I will say something which you may not believe. Singapore is becoming a rural smart city now. Believe me, everybody is having a vertical garden now. Everybody is having a solar power, floating solar, desalination, because Singapore is suffering from many, many changes which the climate has really inflicted upon us. Sea level rise, the dependence on everything, everything literally from the countries around. But the Singapore will never give up. I mean, so Singapore will keep on innovating, will try to position itself to maintain the proper ambience is very important. That proper ambience means too much of concrete means I have stayed in Bangkok, I have stayed in Beijing, I've stayed in Mumbai, I've stayed in Los Angeles, just not to show off that I've been moving all around. But really, these names are associated with clutter. They may be very modern cities. There may be great malls out there. But is it nature nested? That's Singapore. That's what they are trying to be.
Wow, that's amazing to know. And I think that's the spirit we all should have, not giving up, right? And thank you so much for joining us and inspiring us today, Dr. Salil. We sure have a lot to work together in the future as well. Thank you so much.
I would love to listen to, but it depends on, maybe a bit late. Through this, my greetings to all the other speakers, and let's network again. But I will hang on. I will listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.